Welcome to Thriller Recaps. Today, I am explaining the movie Malnazidos, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share and subscribe if you enjoy this. Captain Jan Lozano is blindfolded and about to be executed by some soldiers. He tells them that he is the nephew of General Lozano and that his uncle would punish them if he is killed. However, this all falls on deaf ears since the soldiers get ready to shoot him. His uncle, General Lozano, arrives at the right time and removes his blindfold. He commands them to release Jan and tells Jan that he wants to see him at his office. At the general's office, he gives Captain Jan a letter to deliver to Colonel Alarcos at the 6th. Captain Jan tells him that to get to Alarcos base, he has to pass through a no-man's land, which is impossible. His uncle tells him that he has to go because he saved his life after he fought with a judge and was about to be executed. The judge had sentenced him for treason, and the only way to be free is to deliver the letter and be back by dawn. Jan takes the letter, and his uncle tells him that Private de Cruz, a young soldier who was imprisoned for running away because he was scared of fighting, would be driving him there. On their journey, Jan encounters an injured friend, Montoya, who is being taken by some German officer onto a train. He tells Captain Jan that the Germans promised him prosthetic hands. Montoya begs him for a cigarette, and Captain Jan gives him one. As they are about to light it, a mean-looking person rushes them. Captain Jan looks at the emblem on the train. Captain Jan tells de Cruz to pass through a valley instead of the main road, although de Cruz doesn't think it's a good idea, he does so. They come across some soldiers while going, and they are asked for their papers. They are allowed to pass through. From a distance, they see a jet shooting at another jet, the jet goes down, and it blows up, but the jet pilot uses a parachute to land. Captain Jan tells de Cruz to park the truck, and they are going to check on the pilot. De Cruz strongly disagrees, and Captain Jan tells him that it's too early to be a coward. De Cruz reluctantly goes with him to check. They find the pilot, who looked dead, hanging on a tree branch with the parachute and with his leg amputated. Some people with guns pointed at them, and their leader Sargento accuses them of being fascists. They check them for weapons. De Cruz tells him that they are Republican soldiers but are dressed the way they are to penetrate enemy lines. Sargento doesn't believe him. The lady in the group, Matacuras, priest killer, removes the letter his uncle gave him from his boot and hands it to Sargento. He reads the message but doesn't understand what it means. He tries to explain the message, but Captain Jan scoffs at him. Sargento tells one of his men Mecha to kill de Cruz, and this makes de Cruz panic. He tells them that he is a virgin. Captain Jan tells them that de Cruz is married and has 2 children, this makes them not shoot de Cruz. Sargento tells them that they would be taking Captain Jan and de Cruz with them. The photographer in their group, who happens to be from America, is busy taking pictures of the hanging pilot. The pilot wakes up and attacks him, getting the attention of the others. One of them, Brodsky, pulls and throws him away from the photographer while Mecha checks the photographer. It stops moving, but then wakes up again, and it starts crawling towards them. Brodsky shoots repeatedly at it, but this doesn't stop it from crawling towards them very fast until Sargento shoots it in the head, and it dies. Mecha tells them that the American photographer was dead, only for him to wake up too like a zombie. He tries to attack them, and Brodsky snaps its neck, but it doesn't die until it is shot in the head. They see some planes flying above. They head back to their base with Captain Jan and de Cruz as their prisoners. On their way, they hear a blast which happens to have come from their base. They move towards it. They all get there to find that their camp has been blown. They try to call out for any survivors. Brodsky sees a blue dust that he had noticed on the pilot there too. Sargento points his gun at Captain Jan, asking if he knows what was going on. Captain Jan tells him that he doesn't know anything. Matacuras draws their attention to one of their people who is dead, but she starts noticing that she was about to wake up. All the dead people start waking up. One of Sargento's men sees his father, and he tries to go to him, but he gets bitten. They start shooting at them. Captain Jan tells them to shoot them in the head. They run towards a boat, and they start pushing it towards the water while one of them shoots at the approaching zombies. They manage to get the boat in the water, and they flee. They head to a cottage they have in another location, but they don't realize that zombies were there too. They are attacked again. Captain Jan tells Matacuras to give him a gun, and she does. They start shooting at the zombies. Brodsky is bitten by a child zombie. This distracts him enough that he is flooded by them. He tells them to flee for their life. They get to the cottage and realize that it's already occupied. They go inside, where they find a nun, Mother Superior Sorflor, and some other men, Lieutenant Jural and Private First Class Raffer. There's a confrontation between the two groups, and they point guns at each other, but Captain Jan manages to defuse the tension. Sister Sorflor narrates their ordeal with the zombies and tells them that it's a miracle that she is alive. She helps Sargento dress his wounds. Captain Jan sends De Cruz, Raffer, and Mecha upstairs to keep watch for them. Sargento asks Sister Sorflor if she can explain what was going on. He tells her that the priests say the dead will rise, and she tells him that what was happening doesn't have anything to do with the kingdom of heaven. She tells them that someone is trying to play God. Sargento gives Captain Jan back his letter. The group starts making plans together. Captain Jan uses the letter to light his cigarette, then he realizes a hidden message on it. Lieutenant Jurel tells Matacuras that he doesn't think she killed any priest and that she's either a dyke or a whore, but he doesn't think she's a dyke. He tells her that he thinks she was checking him out earlier. Matacuras shows him a picture of her sister with a priest, and that the priest thought her sister was pretty, then she whispers something in his ear. Then she tells him that the priest didn't die because she left him breathing. She comes across Captain Jan while leaving. He tells her that Jurel is just a big mouth. She tells him that it doesn't make him any better. She touches his hand and tells him that people from her place who have been to war have rough hands and that he has smooth hands. That means he hasn't been to a battle before. He agrees, and he tells her that he is a lawyer. She wonders what a lawyer would be doing there. Suddenly there's a cry from a stray dog outside. Mecha uses a telescope to check and he sees one zombie. Raffer shoots it dead, but their numbers start increasing. They escape through the back of the cottage while Mecha uses dynamite to blow them up. They get to an area that was fenced with electric barbed wires. They see some zombies, including Brodsky, touching the fence, but they aren't dead, just stuck. Matacuras tells Sargento that they cannot leave Brodsky that way, but he is unable to shoot him. Captain Jan shoots Brodsky for them since they couldn't. Captain Jan tells them about the map he saw on the letter that has to do with the Germans. He tells them that their current location is in the middle of their operation, which is where they shouldn't be. He thinks what is happening is from them, and he tells them that they should investigate it, which one of Sargento's men, Comisario Politico Jamie. They all agree to go investigate what the Germans are up to in their facility. On their way, Comisario Politico stops Sargento to tell him that if it's the Germans that are making the dead not die, then they have to use it against their enemies, including Captain Jan, Sister Sorflor, and the others. He tells Sargento that he hopes he remembers where his allegiance lies, which Sargento replies that he does. They all arrive at a small village. De Cruz tells them that it must have been a battle while Captain Jan says it wasn't. He tells De Cruz to check a truck that they find there. Captain Jan finds more of the blue dust from before. Matacuras finds a lab-like place and she calls to the attention of the others. They find a lady, Anna, who was hiding, and they ask her what happened there. De Cruz starts hearing snarling while he is working on the truck, and he works faster. She tells them that it was her wedding day and the Germans arrived. They shot at them, but her husband fell on her, which protected her from the bullets. She tells them of how the Germans watched the zombies from the church tower and laughed, but one day the church got blown, and they were attacked by zombies. They couldn't survive it because their numbers were too much. Jamie, who is looking at the papers containing the formula of the substance, carries it all. They hear the sound of the truck. They carry Anna along, but they stop on their tracks because Jamie had a gun pointed at them. He tells them that he has the formula and that he and his people should abandon the others and go. He tells them that they can give the formula to the Russians so they can help stop the war. Sargento tells him to drop his gun, but he refuses. De Cruz comes running to warn them of the zombies coming, but Jamie holds him hostage, then he releases him. He tells them that he gave them a chance to go with him, but before he could finish talking, he is attacked by a horde of zombies. Sister Sorflor locks the door, and she tells them of an underground exit. They run towards it. The zombies start hitting and pushing at the door. Jurel helps Anna while they run with the zombies chasing them. Anna turns on him and tries to bite him. He yells for help from Raffer. Raffer and Sister Sorflor come to his aid, and she tries to bite Sister Sorflor. Raffer removes her from Sister Sorflor. She bites Raffer on his boot. Matacuras shoots her dead. Mecha argues that Raffer has been bitten, and he points his gun at him to shoot, but Raffer argues that he hasn't been bitten. He is told to remove his boots, which he did, and no wound is found on his leg. They hear the zombies coming, and they all start moving again. Sargento finds a way out, and after they all pass through it, Sister Sorflor ties the gate with a rope. She tells Sargento that she's been bitten, and she will try to fight off the zombies that she can. Captain Jan uses a telescope to check for any zombies near the truck, which happens to still be running. He tells them they have to go to Los Aguilas, that he had seen the emblem on a train there before and he thinks he knows who is behind it. Maybe they would have an antidote. Sargento doesn't think it's wise for him and his men because they might be arrested and executed once they reach there. Captain Jan tells them that his brother is part of Sargento's people. His brother is fighting with them. This comes as a surprise to them. He tells them that if they let the weapon out of Los Angeles, the war will never end. Sargento calls him a smooth talker and asks him what he did before the war. Matacuras tells him that Captain Jan was a lawyer. Captain Jan tells them that he is going to Los Angeles, and they can go with him, but if they don't, they'd be bitten by the zombies. Sargento tells Captain Jan that he doesn't care if anything happens to him, and he makes Captain Jan promise him that nothing would happen to his remaining men, Matacuras and Mecha. Captain Jan accepts the promise. Captain Jan suddenly realizes that D. Cruz is missing, but D. Cruz appears with the truck unknowing to them that he has been bitten. They get to the rear of Los Angeles, and they survey from the top of the hill. Captain Jan heads to the rear entrance to Los Angeles. He is told to halt, but he walks on, and shots are fired around him as a warning. He introduces himself and says that he brought a group of survivors. His uncle, General Lozano, accompanied by the German soldier in charge of the lab operations, meets with him. General Lozano asks Captain Jan if he brought Colonel Alarco's answer. Captain Jan tells him that he ran into trouble after he took a shortcut. General Lozano tells them to let him pass. Captain Jan tells him about the weapon, and they argue about it. General Lozano tells him that the Russians have something like theirs but they haven't perfected it yet, and they wouldn't think twice to use it on them. He tells Captain Jan to enter because he will be wiping out the valley. Captain Jan insists that he won't abandon the people he came with. Captain Jan goes back to his group on the hill. His uncle and the German soldier head back inside. General Lozano tells the German soldier that they have to delay the bombardment of the valley, but the German soldier tells him that there'd be no need for that. The German soldier tells him that he is no longer in charge of the situation and that he was actually never in charge. General Lozano is confused about the turn of events, and the German shoots him dead. Captain Jan tells the others that his uncle wants to bomb the valley, and everywhere will become a wasteland. He tells them that the airplanes are on their way. They ask Mecha if he has anything to blow up the entrance of Los Angeles. He tells them that he has some dynamite and siphons. He looked for the explosives, but he couldn't find them. D. Cruz tells him he is with them. He tells them that he was bitten back at the church on his way to get the truck. He offers to help them blow up the entrance with the explosive. Captain Jan isn't in support. D. Cruz tells him it's too late for him. D. Cruz asked him for a favor, which was to tell his girlfriend back at his hometown that he always thought of her. D. Cruz heads to the entrance with an explosive in his hand. He is warned by the soldier at the entrance to halt but keeps moving towards the entrance. The soldier shoots at him, and he falls, but he wakes up as a zombie. The explosive detonates, and it causes an explosion. Once it's all clear, Captain Jan and the others go down the hill. He looks at the hill to see a large number of zombies about to head towards their direction. The horde of zombies attacks Los Angeles. Captain Jan, Sargento, and Matacuras go in search of the lab. Rafford gets dragged by a zombie while trying to save Jural. Jural and Mecha run into a truck. The truck is surrounded by zombies. They tell each other about their families. Mecha spots explosives at the back of the truck. They light it up, and it explodes with them in the truck. The others find the train with the lab. Sargento tells Matacuras and Captain Jan to find the antidote while he will get them out of there. Captain Jan asks him how he was going to do so. He tells him that before the war he drove trains. Captain Jan and Matacuras open the lab, and they find the German soldier heading the operation with a syringe containing a blue substance. Captain Jan sees a container with the blue substance and asks him if it was the antidote. The German soldier tells him that there is no antidote and that they did a lot of things but it only slows it down. He smirks at Captain Jan, telling him that he did his job too well and that his work is immortal. Matacuras shoots him in the head. The zombies start pushing at the door. Captain Jan goes to check for an exit, but he gets bitten by a zombie. Matacuras cuts off his palm before the infection spreads. Sargento gets the train to move, and he sees some zombies fast approaching him. He shoots himself in the head. The zombies enter into the lab. Matacuras and Captain Jan lock themselves inside a glass tube-like thing. Captain Jan and Matacuras kiss since they think they wouldn't be making it right before some planes drop a bomb on Los Angeles. Raffer wakes up on the train without being bitten because the zombie that tried to bite him got impaled on the head by a rod. Matacuras and Captain Jan wake up. Matacuras gives Captain Jan a ride to his hometown. He asks her where she would be going to. She tells him that she would be crossing to France. He doesn't think it's a good idea, and she tells him that she doesn't have anyone anymore. He tells her that nobody will know who she is in his hometown, that she can come with him and she would be safe. She tells him that they don't have anything in common and if it wasn't for the war they wouldn't have met. He asks her if something good can't come out of a war. She tells him not to get out of this war or any other. She tells him to get his arm checked. She goes to leave. He asks her about her real name. She rides off smiling, not answering his question. Subscribe for more daily videos. Your support, likes, shares, and subscriptions mean a lot. See you in the next video.